Hey everyone, welcome back to This is Tech Talks, and we have an amazing guest today, Yagiz.
I am the founder of Node.js Performance Team. I was the Performance Strategic Initiative Champion of Node.js.
Can you just tell us what is Node.js?
How do you install libraries?
NPM? You mean? Yeah.
Which programming languages are you using to contribute to Node.js, and what issues are you dealing with performance-wise?
What are some of the big perf issues that you're working through right now for Node, or within Node, I guess?
The knowledge in Node.js is growing in an extremely significant pace, and it's an exciting times. Okay, I could say.
Hey everyone, welcome back to This is Tech Talks, and we have an amazing guest today, Yagiz. So Yagiz posted not few months back, but I think last month, that he wants to appear on a podcast, talk about Node.js performance, and I was like, oh, this is the best opportunity to get a great guest on the podcast, and we are restarting again. So thanks a lot, Yagiz, for joining us. And
Thank you so much for inviting me. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my side and my experience and my thoughts on Node.js and performance.
Today we have our co-hosts Lars and Jay joining us. Hey Lars, hey Jay, how are you?
While Lars is unmuting his microphone, I'll go. Things are great. Yeah, it's a little early for me versus some of you guys. I think it might be a little bit later for Lars, but that's how these recordings go. We're all spread across the whole world, which is fun.
Well, I'm in the same time zone as Santosh.
I always forget how small that whole Europe is compared to Canada. Canada spans so many time zones. So does the US, I guess.
Yeah. And we are neighbors. I mean, me and Lars is 3-4 hours away. No, more than that probably. But yes,
6 hours.
Yeah, cool. So, Yagiz, just to start with, I mean, would you like to introduce yourself, what you have been doing so far, and yeah?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm Yagiz Nizipli. I'm a Node.js technical steering committee member. I am a voting member of OpenJS Foundation. On top of that, I've taken and wore several hats in the Node.js organization, such as I'm a build working group member. I am the founder of Node.js Performance Team. Up until September 2023, I was the Performance Strategic Initiative Champion of Node.js. Yeah, I can summarize me as like that.
And what about your job? You work anywhere as full time?
That's yeah. So I'm currently working at Sentry. I'm a senior software engineer there. I'm mostly working on the JavaScript SDK part, and yeah, I'm quite new. I started working there until 2.5 months ago, and since then I've been contributing more and more to Node.js, and Sentry is sponsoring my work and by giving me the opportunity and time to contribute to Node.js. So yeah.
That's awesome. Sentry's lucky to have you, and we're all lucky that Sentry has you. For us, that use Sentry.
Yeah, so that's one of the issues with Node.js is that unless there is some company or an organization that sponsors your work, it's extremely hard to find time. Up until I joined Sentry, I was using my own time, my own weekends to contribute to Node.js. So I'm one of the lucky few to do that in the daytime as well right now.
So I mean, just to start with, Yagiz, I mean, can you just tell us what is Node.js, and then we proceed?
Node.js is a JavaScript-based runtime that uses and leverages Google's V8 JavaScript engine. It's basically a JavaScript-based runtime that you can share the same code between browser and the backend service. That lets you develop really fast products that you care about input and output performance.
And V8 is what Chrome uses. for our
Yes.
listeners, right? Yeah. So V8's what's running under the hood when you're in Chrome or any Chromium-based browser, I guess. Right.
Yeah, so V8 is one of the biggest JavaScript engines, and it's one of the most performant ones in the market right now. It's used by all Chromium browsers. Mainly Google is maintaining it, but there are other companies such as Bloomberg and several other ones that also contribute to Chromium, including Microsoft, because they're sharing it and so on and so forth. So, but I'm not contributing to V8 or Chromium. I'm mostly contributing to Node.js and use V8 daily in order to leverage the APIs provided by the V8 team.
So Node's a layer on top of V8 then that we interface with using JavaScript. Is that kind of...
So basically Node, so we have V8 that provides JavaScript language features. On top of that, we have libuv, which gives you operating system access, such as file system and so on and so forth. And then we have Node.js. There are other small libraries on top of it as well, but mainly we have libuv and V8 that powers Node.js. Yeah, we can summarize it like that, I guess.
Makes sense.
I mean, to understand, so in case there are some changes in V8 engine, you interact with V8 team, or like how does it work? I mean, how does this collaboration work?
So if there's a specific bug or an issue that we have to address, then of course we reach out to the V8 team. We open it into the bug tracker, and there are several contributors to Node.js that are also a contributor to V8 as well. And we fix it upstream, and then we rebase those changes. We apply those changes to the Node.js. But because of certain limitations about how backward compatible Node.js is, we are extremely picky about what to do and not to introduce any breaking changes, because Node.js is one of the few runtimes in the world right now that supports a wide variety of architectures and operating systems, such as like Windows, Linux, macOS, the default one. On top of that, it supports big endian and little endian operating systems. On top of that, it supports IBM I and so on and so forth. So there are lots of different enterprise-based operating systems based on Linux, but they have major differences. So Node.js supports all of them thanks to libuv, which is a project for this file system operations. It was initially developed by the Node.js team, and then it got decoupled into a different project because it became too big, and we the history is that's what kind of happened.
Makes sense. And there's also lots of other uses for it outside of Node.js, I'm sure, right? So it probably belongs as its own project regardless.
Yes,
right?
definitely. So whenever, if you want to develop any cross-platform applications, but if you want to read a file, for example, but you want to read a file also on Windows and Linux with the same exact code base, the whole spirit of having, let's say, React Native and Cordova and PhoneGap application is to share the same code on different operating systems. That's the basis of libuv as well, but it provides it in
I haven't heard the term phone gap in a long time.
Yeah, I started my career by developing PhoneGap and Cordova applications. So
nice.
yeah, I'm old. I can say that. Yeah,
that's funny.
So libuv basically does all of those abstractions for you with almost little to none cost of performance, and Node.js leverages those kind of features.
Cool.
Class, you have any questions?
Yeah, something's missing here. It's 3 letters and it starts with an N. How do you install libraries?
npm? You mean? Yeah. Npm isn't a Node project. It's not inside the Node.js organization as well. This is kind of funny to hear these. If you hear npm, because it's in the past 2 or 3 weeks, I proposed removing npm from the Node binary and replacing it with Corpac and so on and so forth. So, but yeah, npm isn't a Node project. We don't have any kind of decision making about what changes are applied there. and we don't even have the opportunity to like the power to recommend changes for the benefit of Node ecosystem, because it's basically owned by a company that got shipped with Node.js for a really long time. So yeah, I'm also a PMPM organization member. Last summer I spent a couple of months implementing PMPM on Rust. So I might be a little bit biased towards package managers, but other than this simple fact, I'm a strong advocate for equality and like market opportunity kind of stuff.
When are we getting Rust-based PMPM? What?
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah.
You don't want to commit to a date? Come on, give us a date.
No. So
next week.
I basically wrote the initial version and then I donated into PMPM organization. So it's right now in PMPM, and that's why I became a member of the PMPM organization. But I didn't had any time to work on it. So there are a couple of folks working on it, but I kind of lost track about what's happening. But I checked it yesterday and there wasn't any commit in the last 2 months. So I'm kind of sad that happened. But yeah.
That's how open source is, right? I mean,
yeah.
I have 2 questions. The first one is, can you explain core pack?
Yeah, I was going to ask that too.
Yeah, definitely. So the main issue that, in order to explain core pack, what I like to do is to explain it by examples, because it's the easiest way to describe a product or an application or a solution rather than giving the theoretical description. So if you have multiple repositories, but if you want to use one of them in Yarn and one of them PMPM and one of them in NPM, because let's say one of them is an enterprise application that uses Yarn v1, one of them is your workspace that has multiple packages that you develop and you care about certain things that PMPM does, and the other one is like a simple repository that you forked on GitHub and that uses NPM. In order to share the same exact version of PMPM, NPM, and Yarn between all of those different projects, you need a solution to sync those things. Previously, we had engines field inside package.json that basically can give you a variety of range, but that's sort of like a protection. But it doesn't automatically install PMPM or Yarn for you. So if you enable core pack, and if you just go into that particular folder, it will automatically give you the ability to, like, it will automatically install PMPM and Yarn for you, so you don't need to install it. So it's basically a manager of package managers.
It's a meta package manager.
Yes. One small thing is that NPM isn't compatible with core pack. NPM team doesn't want to support or be correlated with the work of core pack. This is all public information, by the way. So if you add if you go to any project in the package.json file, you will see a package manager key that has the value of, let's say, PMPM at 8.3.1, and there's a hashtag, and it includes the SHA hash of that distribution. So if you have an NPM, it wouldn't work, but it supports PMPM and Yarn at the moment.
Oh, interesting. So there are challenges like making core pack.
So right now, core pack is distributed with Node.js, but because it isn't enabled by default, it didn't had a significant adoption. So what I wanted to, because I'm a member of Node.js Technical Steering Committee, one of my responsibilities is to make sure to defend what's best for the users of Node.js and what's best for the ecosystem, even though it puts me in the spot and makes me the bad guy from time to time. But I believe that history will tell those kinds of things. So a couple of weeks ago, while I was looking into the open repositories provided by Node.js, even though I knew core pack, it's been a while since I looked into it, because it's not enabled by default. And even though I'm a TSC member, I wasn't using it. So there was an issue that was opened to enable core pack by default, and it was opened in maybe a year ago. and there wasn't any significant advancement or a comment on it, because everybody has different opinions about what's the correct time to be ready about something or to ship it, because of the concerns and because of how big Node.js is. So I basically raised it on the Node.js Technical Steering Committee members committee meeting, and yeah, here we are, I guess.
I can't believe that Microsoft doesn't support Core Pack.
Yeah, can you repeat that? You don't believe what?
I can't believe that they don't support Core Pack, NPM.
Yes, they don't. I don't know.
They don't want.
I mean, of course, I believe you. I mean, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I know. Like, it doesn't make sense, but it also makes sense in some certain level. But like, if I don't know, they have their own internal agenda or their internal reasoning, I guess. The reason to why enabling Core Pack isn't common, because they don't want to get distributed by a package manager, and they don't want to solve issues that's caused by the package managers, like Core Pack related issues. That was the NPM team's comment, I guess. But other than that, they also don't want to solve any issues to have Core Pack adoption, which is kind of weird in my sense, but it also makes sense because we're living in a capitalist world and everybody has their own agenda. So, but yeah, everything is it's good to have everything in open and discussing it openly. So, in a couple of years, you can go back and see that what I wrote or what others wrote on that particular topic, and you can basically understand why a decision was made.
Well, they have had the special situation of being bundled with Node, but you're saying that is coming to an end now.
I'm not saying it. I'm just hoping it, because I'm a member of a committee with 15 people. Even though we share the same goal, a lot of people have different opinions, which makes it a really great committee, in my opinion. Because if you all shared the same thing, then there wouldn't be any discussion or advancement or any kind of thing. But it's likely to get removed. But the question is how, because removing it is going to be a really huge breaking change, and Node.js doesn't like breaking changes. So even if we decide we want to remove it, then it would take maybe years to remove it. So the first step to do that. So right now we are not discussing where to remove NPM. We are discussing if Core Pack is a good solution to distribute PNPM-AR. And then we are going to enable it in the next major. And then it will take some time to understand or how we can use and leverage NPM into this equation. And then the question becomes, what is the correct time to remove NPM and use Core Pack to do it? Because it has a cost on Node.js collaborators as well. Every time you see an NPM issue, a lot of people just open an issue to Node.js repository and say that, my NPM install doesn't work, and so on and so forth. And on top of that, we also need to include NPM versions in different Node.js releases. Like, we need to review those PRs, and we are basically accepting a huge chunk of PR opened by the NPM CLI bot without particularly analyzing every particular change, because it's impossible to review, let's say, 5,000 lines of code. So there's like a trust going back and forth. Not back and forth, but like there's trust going from Node.js to NPM, I guess. So yeah, and I personally want to give the same opportunity to other clients as well. Because they all have different agendas, different goals. One of them is reducing the size. One of them is reducing the friction of workspaces, and so on and so forth. There is Bun that doing the installer part as well. So yeah, so having these kinds of opportunities is always better for the end user, in my opinion.
With Core Pack, is Core Pack wanting to Or are you wanting to, or someone wanting to expand Core Pack to support other package managers other than Yarn and PNPM? Like, I'm assuming
So
theoretically any package manager can be plugged into Core Pack if the developer of that package manager wants it to be. Right?
Yeah, so the question is, anybody can come and open a PR to Core Pack and can distribute their own package manager to it. The issue with it is that one of the concerns is we are going to be the gatekeepers of this package manager list, and what qualifies the package manager to be distributed by Node.js.
Mm-hmm.
This is a concern that's raised, but on top of that, our current problem is that we are only distributing once. We are still a gatekeeper, but we are just limiting it to a single person, which kind of reminds me about a really large organization in the United States that does the same thing for mobile applications and so on and so forth. So the question becomes, how can we make our lives easier? Because we don't want to be a gatekeeper to anything, because that comes with a significant responsibility and so on and so forth. And how can we enable other package managers to rise from the bottom and have the same exact opportunity as the others? Because at that ideal scenario, at that ideal time, we will have innovation that we didn't see in the past 5 to 10 years in registries and Node.js ecosystem or JavaScript ecosystem, I would say.
Makes sense. And correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding now that I've talked to you about this, you as in Node, the TSC, aren't going to be actually distributing these package managers. You're distributing a way to install the package managers, right? Like, you're not going to be distributing Yarn. You're distributing the thing that will install Yarn from Yarn's repositories, right? So you're not actually going to have to review the Yarn code or the PNPM code, or all you're doing is reviewing the Core Pack code, which will be distributed with the binary people install when they go to nodejs.org.
So what we care about is not what is distributed, but the integrity of the distributed documents. Makes sense. Right now, if you do npm -g npm or whatever, of course you install a specific version, but that specific version of npm or whatever package that you install have a sub-dependency that have a caret description in it, and it's impossible to install a specific version of that package. Maybe there is, and someone is going to correct me right now. As far as I know, I don't know it.
Resolutions?
Sorry?
Yeah,
resolutions.
Yes, but you basically need to write every single resolution on every single thing, and you expect the npm registry or like whatever client to safely apply those resolutions to the package sub-dependencies, and you expect them to not break. So, and then what happens if you update it, and so on and so forth. So, but like the main question is that you want to install what you want to install, and you want to make sure that it's cryptographically validated, meaning that you share the same hash, and you just don't want to others to exploit those kinds of things. So we need some sort of gatekeeper that is basically an open organization that doesn't have any specific goals other than providing a free software, I guess. And that's where Node.js comes in my opinion.
You want to be the best, provide the best solution to your customers, i.e. the community that uses Node.js, right? And that's what you're trying to push forward, right? Is your customers, i.e. the devs that are building any kind of JavaScript based application. You want to provide the best experience to, and that makes perfect sense, right? So how can you do that most effectively, right?
So yeah, that's the whole point of I think Node.js TSC is that we are forced to make these tough shots in order to define what's best in the both short and the long term of Node.js ecosystem. Because if you look into the download statistics of Node.js, which is public, it's downloaded billion times, and it's used in every single device, including, let's say, WhatsApp desktop and Discord and any like MS window, like Microsoft Teams and so on and so forth. Yeah. And even TVs such as WebOS, LG, like they use Node.js at some sort of level. So the adoption is extremely high, and every small mistake that is made is causes a person to swear at you and publicly mention you, saying that you broke my build because of this, and so on and so forth. So yeah, the stakes are high, but also the benefit of making, like, improving a single thing by like improving a single function performance by 5%, it has huge impact on the
Massive,
world itself.
massive impact.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, so
And
let's
most
talk
other
about that
people do.
performance.
Yeah.
Because my second question was, which programming languages are you using to contribute to Node.js, and what issues are you dealing with performance-wise?
So Node.js is written in both JavaScript and C++. V8 is a C++ library, and we use JavaScript and C++ in order to provide certain functionality. If it's related to V8 or if it's related to any native implementation, we use C++, and the rest we use JavaScript. And because V8 and because JavaScript is a JIT compiled language, which means just-in-time compiled language, the optimizations that are provided by your solution might change because the performance impact might change because V8 improved or degraded a certain function. So yeah. But mostly we are seeing a pattern in Node.js history that we are moving towards contributing to C++ more than we contribute to JavaScript. But because we want to have a mass adoption and new contributors, we are still seeing some contributors on the JavaScript side as well, because it's extremely hard to find C++ developers. It's not hard to find them, but it's hard to find C++ developers that are willing to contribute to open source freely. So that's the main
for the benefit
concern.
of JavaScript.
Yeah.
Exactly, not JavaScript, but for the benefit of the world. They don't see it as it's JavaScript or not. I don't see it as the benefit of JavaScript personally. JavaScript, I think JavaScript is the worst language that there is. I really hate JavaScript, but I also really love JavaScript. It's like a hate-love kind of relationship. But because it's massively adopted and it's not going anywhere anytime soon, and because all browsers implement it, even though there's WebAssembly and blah, blah, there's going to be other things. But yeah, if you want to have an impact in the world, JavaScript is the only way to do it right now.
Makes sense. So you founded the performance, what was it called? The performance team, or
yep.
Within the Node.js organization. So what are some of the big perf issues that you're working through right now for Node, or within Node, I guess?
So right now I'm not working on the performance side. I've personally hit a roadblock. It's like a writer's block. Like from time to time, you just don't. You can't find something to write or something to optimize, because it's like getting a rabbit out of a hat, and there's a significant there's a limited time that you can do the same trick. If you do it 100 times, you might not do it 101 times. So right now I am sort of taking a break from performance, and this is mostly because of, again, the block that I have, and also the drama around and the issues around the performance part of it. And the main reason that I started contributing to Node.js and performance was because performance is quantifiable data. It's scientific. It doesn't involve any discussions. It doesn't involve any emotions in it. And I'm not a big fan of having unnecessary discussions. Because if I'm doing this freely, then I want to do it on my own term. And if you write your benchmark correctly and if you optimize it, it's just like this particular code improved this code by this amount of time. So there's no should I do this, or is this the correct approach kind of thing.
Makes sense.
But
is it or is it not faster, right? It's really just it's binary.
Yeah. So, but I'm sort of demotivated right now towards working on it. But hopefully this is going to pass. And
Well, we're all open source maintainers and contributors, so we understand that situation.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
I was in a spot that made me quit, made me leave my role as the performance strategic initiative champion. This meaning that I was the person responsible for advancing the performance of Node.js at that time. So right now I'm mostly working on the .env integration.
Nice.
I've added m file CLI flag. Right now, I'm adding a runtime function called process.load m file to load m file just like .env package does.
.env is awesome. I just integrated .env, and well, we were using .env before, obviously, right? Because that's kind of just what you do in Node. But I just started using .env vault as well and integrated that into our NX mono repo, and it was it's such a joy to work with versus like using other secret managers or like setting secrets manually and all this stuff. .env is great. That organization is fantastic. I'm so glad I've seen it integrated directly into Node.
Yeah. So we don't have Vault integration in Node.
Yeah.
I basically did it to have so there are several reasons to recommend adding a particular new API to Node.js, such as like what's the benefit of having .env in Node.js? Because there's an existing npm package. It's not about like reducing the user base of .env. It's about adding new functionality, and there are limitations to .env can do, such as node options. The node options environment variable is only available as an environment variable, and it should be defined before any JavaScript function is executed, because it impacts and it changes V8 internals. So the V8 shouldn't be initialized like before defining, like after defining node options. So that's why I added node options, and also adding I had the goal of adding a dependency called simJSON for JSON parsing, which opens new possibilities and features for Node.js for JSON parsing. So yeah, that was my initial goal, and then of course everybody has some feature requests, like why don't we have variable expansion? Why don't we have multi-line? Like, so yeah, my implementation was extremely basic. Like it solved the goal, and right now there are several other people right now adding all of those features, which makes me happy because it also helps Node.js to get more C++ contributors, because I implemented all of those things in C++. And right now,
I think that's great, honestly, right? Like how the fact that an open source package hit the nail on the head so well that Node is now actually integrating its functionality directly into Node. Like that's what open source is about, right? Like,
yes,
you're not trying to steal their customers or like plagiarize their work. You're just saying your solution was so spot on and everybody likes it so much that why don't we make it a first class citizen?
Right? Yes,
like
and what's really shocking was that the .env organization, which is like an actual company, they were super supportive, and they sent me messages and reach out and like retweeted my contributions and so on and so forth, which is extremely hard to find these days because of obvious reasons. But it's good to see that it's supported by a wide variety of companies and users worldwide.
Yeah, I mean, like you're saying it without saying it that they did a good job, right? And they
definitely. So
and they want to be part of the long-term solution, right? So bringing them in, I'm sure they're more than happy to be part of the whole process of getting effectively their package integrated into the framework that we all use and love, right? Or hate. love or hate, depending on the day.
Yeah. So the question is, the definition of success for me is extremely different than what we see right now. It's about adoption. It's about the user base. So you could write the best software, the fastest software, or the most secure software, but if you don't have mass adoption, then it's going to fade away eventually. And those kinds of .env, for example, did a really great job at having the standard of defining environment variables, and they did it for multiple different languages, not only for JavaScript, but for Python, Rust, and blah, blah. There's packages in everywhere. And I just saw that there's a .env X. The author of .env created another package that is same across all languages, which is really great.
Yeah, their solutions are awesome, and they're great to work with, honestly. And actually, their support is super responsive too.
Yeah,
It's
I
really
don't
nice.
know.
Yeah,
I didn't use them. So.
Yeah, because I was integrating Data and Vault, right? And I would like email their support, and I got an answer like so quick. It was awesome. So if anybody from the .env org is listening, 2 thumbs up across the board.
Yes.
It's interesting, this talk about .env and this JSON parsing you're talking about as well. It reminds me of another ecosystem being .NET, where for many, many years, like even decades, there was this Newtonsoft JSON package maintained by one person. And eventually Microsoft hired him and made it part of .NET Core, which is now just .NET modern versions. And it was the fastest JSON parser and writer, and now it's even faster and part of .NET itself. So these are great success stories of collaboration and open source in some circumstances.
Definitely. By the way, the JSON library that's adopted called SimJSON is written by Daniel Demarais, which is a professor from Canada, and also the co-author of the author of SimDutF, SimJSON, and the Ada URL parser that we wrote together. So, nice. And right now he's getting nominated. I nominated him to be a Node.js collaborator. So it's the knowledge in Node.js is growing in an extremely significant pace, and it's an exciting times, I could say.
Yeah, I do have another case here, because the thing I always return to when it comes to Node.js performance, or at least when using Node for developer tooling, which is another area, it's like you can't do much without Node.js as a JavaScript developer, but it's the node options max old space size. Can you explain that? Because I'm still confused.
I don't know. Well, I need to look into the documentation as well.
The max old space size, it's how much memory is allocated either in total for Node.js or per process. I'm not sure. The default now is 4 gigabytes. I always increase it to something like 7 or 8 gigabytes, or even more in some powerful scenarios. Mm-hmm. But then I'm confused, is it per Node.js process or in total on the system? It's the first thing I always configure.
The old space is referring to V8's heap allocated maximum space. Mm-hmm. So it's like the maximum bucket that V8 can allocate on heap for this particular runtime. That's the limit. And if you have different like worker threads, and if you have different V8 environments that's running in the same application, then they will all have different ones, as far as I know. But this is a really specific question that I'm not an expert in. Basically, Node.js is a 30 million line of project, and even though I am the most contributed 31st contributor in the world right now, it's I don't even I didn't know that till I think.
I do a lot of CI/CD, and this is an important one.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I always increase it when you get heap overflows. That's all I know. When your CI fails because you get a heap overflow, go and increase the maximum space size.
Yeah, as soon as you start using NX.
So the question is, if you're hitting heap allocation like limits, then garbage collection doesn't do its job as fast as it should.
Mhm.
This means that you are just inevitably delaying the root cause of the problem. So there's something that's causing this not using the weak references in order to trigger garbage collection. And so yeah, and I would just go for looking for the V8 debugger in order to understand how and why we have all of those like why GC doesn't do its job correctly. That I would do that. And for the size of like NX or like any workspace that runs multiple things on the same thing, they're going to reach out to this. But the issue is that Node.js is a single thread runtime, so the goal is not about providing really huge application. It's about providing chunk of small application that doesn't block the main thread and gives you an output in a really high IO throughput, I can say.
Isn't workers supported by Node.js?
Yes, worker threads. Yeah, you can. Yeah, it's
like
supported.
new worker.
Yeah, it's supported. But basically, we have worker threads. I don't think we have new worker. But yeah. So yeah, so either you can use worker in the same thread pool, or you can spawn a new process. All of them has different limitations and different characteristics. But yeah, it suggests. But if you hit that particular limit, then you might look into using another language and leverage it, because Node.js might not be the correct solution to solve this particular problem. If you're reaching parallelism and parallel processing limitations, then yeah, I would suggest that.
Makes sense. My heap issues usually come in when I'm doing something with TypeScript, type checking a massive code base, or because TSC is type checking stuff using JavaScript, right? So,
yeah, that's why I recommend either using Biome or OXC, which is both written by a really good friend of mine. So yeah, Rust-based linters are my my like weak spot. I guess I can say that. Yeah,
I'm just looking forward to a Rust-based type checker.
I think there is one.
STC is from the developer at SWC.
I know. There's Asno.
Asno.
Asno, it's bundled with OXC right now.
Okay.
I don't think it's 100% compliant, because TypeScript definition is always changing and they're not following semantic versioning. So yeah, but it's close to being ready as far as I know.
That's amazing, because TSC is slow.
Yep, definitely. And I think their goal for 2024 is to improve the performance of type checking in TSC.
Bookmarking, Biome, and Asno.
I just looked it up right now. I was playing with OXC the other day, though. I just didn't know that there was a type checker as part of that whole kind of.
As far as I can tell, you don't play with OXC. You just run it, and it runs with a blink of an eye, and there's no other discussion around it.
It's wild how fast it is. It's crazy.
Definitely. Boshan is doing a really great job there. And one of their readmes, like one of the sentences in their readmes is like really gets me and makes me chill. Like, is that any performance issues are considered as a bug in this project. That was the quote from there. So that's a really great mindset that I wish every project had it. But it's the stakes
awesome
are too high.
Awesome way to look at it. Yeah, awesome way to look at it. Totally. So we've talked a lot about, Node itself, and we've mentioned some other, projects out there that of varying degrees of similarity and overlapping functionality to Node itself. But there's two projects that are looking to kind of just replace Node, right? As per what they say, again, the public knowledge, right? Now, will they? Probably not, just because nothing ever fully replaces something else, right? Like Node will be around for a long, 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 long time. Humans are probably going to wipe ourselves out but before Node goes
Yeah.
away, right? Like at this point. But those two projects are Deno and Bun, or Deno, sorry, I think I pronounced it wrong. Deno and Bun, right? They have similar goals, right? They are their own runtimes, right? Like you would run within the Bun runtime or the Deno runtime instead of the Node runtime, even though you're still writing JavaScript and stuff like that, right? So like, what are your thoughts on these two projects? And one of them aims for a higher level of compatibility with Node than the other, right? Deno kind of took a whole different approach in that we're like, okay, well, if we're gonna do this from the fresh, let's do it fresh, right? Whereas Bun's like, we want to be 100% compatible so that you can just swap the command you run effectively. So what are your thoughts?
So I personally know both of their owners and founders and authors. Other than the emotional aspect of this friendship, I was quite excited a couple of months ago when Deno announced that they're going to focus on performance because Bun was have this significant impact. And they're comparing Deno and Bun and Node, and but in the last couple of months, as far as I know, I couldn't see any kind of performance work that was publicly announced, or maybe it's announced, but I didn't heard. So that's kind of a bummer for me. But other than that, Deno chose to have a different approach, and then they reverted back, and then they supported npm and package manager, and then all that stuff, and that explicitly makes sense. Like that I totally understand. Most people think that this is like a really bad like this shows about some certain things, characteristics, blah blah. I think it was a really mature call, because I think they realized that in order to have mass adoption, they need to have npm ecosystem behind it, and that's what happened. But other than that, like I also read Deno's code and found several issues, blah blah blah. These are all could be fixed. But I think they are right now focusing on the enterprise side, and they are having this key value storage. They are looking for improving Deno deploy in order to have enterprise, because the way to have mass adoption is to have enterprise support. And if you have really big companies that uses Deno or whatever your runtime is, then you basically secure your spot. Because if you don't earn money, like the goal of Deno and Bun is to earn money eventually, but in Node it's not. So our concerns are a lot different than there. So this is my talk about, like, this is my thought about Deno. About Bun, Jared is basically doing a really great job. Like he publicly supported me, saying that I shouldn't be crucified for Node.js performance and blah blah. It's like really it really showed something about his character. I also know him personally, like I met with him face to face. The goal of Bun is extremely good, because it's creating a new era for the JavaScript by defining the benchmarks, the limitations of what we could do. Of course, there's like a theoretical and practical limitations to what we could do, but unless someone challenges it, it's extremely hard to find the motivation to work on something, because you realize that you accept the fact that this is the best output of a thing that you could do. And then unless somebody questions it, or unless you find like the reason to look into it, you never look into it. This is what happened with Node in several areas. And Bun kind of helped Node.js in a way, helped Node.js and also JavaScript ecosystem in a way to push those things. One of the issues that was happening with Bun is that they, from 1.1, 1.0 release, they claimed that they're compatible with Node, but they weren't. And this kind of shook the core principle of compatibility. And also caused a lot of library authors a lot of pain, because a lot of people said that your code doesn't work on Bun. But the issue is that Bun had a bug that was causing this error. So this was the side effect that that marketing call about releasing 1.0 at that time caused, which is sad, I could say. But yeah, overall, what's happening around JavaScript is extremely good. I wouldn't use Deno or Bun in any production applications right now. I don't know if my opinion is going to change, but For any production application, stability, security, those kinds of things are important. And being the last one to implement a certain functionality sometimes has its advantages.
Of course.
We also see this in capitalism in technology industry, because then others validate if that's the correct approach to do it. Of course, they use certain features for marketing purposes, but 90% of those features doesn't pan out and isn't useful for people. Like, for example, Deno added permissions model, and then it made sense for Node.js to adopt this as well, and then we did it. So I'm pretty sure this is going to be beneficial for the end users, and I'm confident that eventually it's going to resolve. And the only issue that I could think of is that right now I am literally the organization owner of, like, a GitHub organization owner of Node.js. I could remove certain thing or add certain one, or like remove a repository or whatever. I have the permission to it. In a company, you have these permissions as well. But if you do it in a company, there's no one that questions why you do that, because like you have the permission to do it. I also have the permission, but that doesn't mean that I should do it. So that's one of the powerful thing that people don't realize about a certain free software in the world. And I'm sort of afraid that people are going to realize that this is a power that we are giving up for no reason at all. And I hope that we won't be late to realize this thing, because then it will be a adoption. Let's say there's a new runtime, they release a new company, and then they went bankrupt, and you have been using their software in production, and you don't have the budget to refactor or move to another runtime. Then OpenSSL releases a major vulnerability, and then you basically are vulnerable, and you are processing, let's say, credit card information. Then what happens? Then the worst thing happens. So
absolutely,
that's the benefit of non-commercial applications like this, like Node.js.
I think you're spot on in that it will be better for everybody at the end of the day, right? Competition always improves the resulting
but the thing
solutions
is,
for people, right?
So this isn't a competition. There is
no competition in terms of
I know, but I just want
another.
I know. I just wanted to address this because I received lots of messages assuming that Node.js is competing with Deno or Bun, and I just wanted to address this because there's no competition. There's no person in Node.js organization that's declaring war or whatever that is towards any other runtime or any other thing, because Node.js is not is an organization, is a living organization, and the owners, the leaders of that organization is always changing. I'm talking with you right now. Maybe in 2 years, there's going to be someone else that's talking about Node.js. That's the benefit and the beauty of these things.
Absolutely.
And eventually, it's going to benefit the humanity, not only JavaScript, because free software and commercial software. Of course, without commercial software, we wouldn't have planes. We wouldn't have any sort of health advancement in US, because all of them came from military and blah, blah, and commercial applications.
It's a fine balance, right? It's a fine balance. Yeah, you're definitely only competing in that you're solving the same problems.
Yes.
Right?
That's
it, right? But at the end of the day, you're all trying to do the same thing and push the same industry, technology, people forward and improve it for everybody. So everybody just wins at the end of the day, right? And that's why monopolies are technically illegal, right? Because if there isn't competition, right?
Technically,
we're seeing a lot of that right now going on, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But competition is healthy, right? We actually want that.
And we should not forget that even if the code is open, it doesn't mean that it's an open source project.
Correct.
People realize that, oh, I could just fork it and use it. But if you can just fork it and use it, but if you don't have any sort of decision-making process, then it doesn't, in my book, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't define to be an open source project. And in Node.js, you can come and say that, yes, you're wrong. And you could explain this to me. I could disagree with you, even though I'm an Node.js TSC member. You have the right to disagree with me, and we can have a debate. And if there is no consensus driven, I'm forced to go into a vote in all of the TSC members, and I'm forced to accept the fact that they don't agree with me. This is extremely okay, and this is extremely it improves character, and it improves everything for everybody. So this is one of the reasons I also contribute to Node.js, and I want others to contribute as well. Even though you don't care about JavaScript or you don't care about C++, it's benefiting everybody.
Yep, makes sense.
I mean, so last thing which you mentioned, like contributing to Node.js, how people can do that, like what are the different ways?
So basically, Node.js doesn't have any specific task list. You can come in, you can select whatever you want to implement. You found a bug, just come in and fix it and open a PR. If you want to add a new feature, just open an issue, and you don't even have to open an issue. You don't even have to inform others about you're going to work on this. You can just open a PR and say that, okay, I added this. What do you think? You can do that. And it's unless somebody blocks it and it goes into the TSC voting status, like the voting era, then there's no there's no blocker, and this gives you the ability to do whatever you want. And most people are like either contributing Node.js because they found a bug, or they just wanted to improve themselves. I basically started contributing to Node.js because I wanted to select master's thesis, and I didn't want to write like a shitty mobile application or like a small MVC app or something. I just wanted to make a difference. And I wrote the URL parser of Node.js, which later I released a paper with Daniel Lemire about it. And the impact that my work and Daniel's work on this impacted a lot of things, like Cloudflare workers adopted it. Right now, NativeScript is adopting it. There's like Red Panda. There's other really good libraries that are supporting it. So if you're interested in contributing to Node.js, don't hesitate to ask any questions. You can always reach out to me on Twitter. I receive lots of DMs, so if I don't answer to your messages, you can always mention me and then say that like I have a question, blah blah. And I will do my best to answer it. You can open an issue in Node.js repository, ask about your question or your concern or your bug or whatever that you want to ask, and everybody in the community is extremely helpful, and they are not hesitant to correct you or improve you. And I basically right now I have an open PR that received maybe 70 reviews. It was blocked by 4 people, and right now all of them approved because I fixed it, and I realized that there was a bug in my code and it wouldn't be ideal for some certain of level of people. And that's the beauty of Node.js.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I hope that I answered your question.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, it will be helpful for others who wants to contribute. I mean, I just contributed like once. That was a top PR. So
yeah,
hope I can do that more. So I think thanks a lot, Yagiz, for joining. Like we are almost at on time. Like we recorded for 1 hour, and this is really useful for many others, like who wants to contribute to Node.js or want to know more about Node.js and the other ecosystem. Of course, why you should make that choice. Like, of course, the new friends things are good, but of course, does it fit for your organization, right? So that's the question you need to answer before picking up anything, and you summarize that perfectly. And we'll we just ask one last question. Like, do you want to promote anything on the channel or on the podcast?
Do I want to promote anything?
Yeah.
I think I promoted already all of the Rust linters that I'm obsessed about. Yeah, I can. I don't know. OXC Biome is like my two favorite repositories right now. So I'm starting to contribute more to Rust because of my work and those kinds of specific scientific applications that are obsessed about certain feature. Like Biome has an obsession towards unifying all of the solutions into one binary, so we don't have ESLint prettier and blah blah in order to fix everything. And then OXE has a different goal of making it as fast as possible, so that we solve the feedback loop problem in review and we improve the productivity of an application. So yeah, I would suggest everybody who's watching, listening to this call to just go and look into the projects.
Thank you so much. And so thank you for joining, Lars. Thank you, Jay. And yeah, we will meet again probably next week for another episode. And have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
See ya.